Hello, clever people, and welcome to my review for Tolkien. So Tolkien is a movie that follows the story of J.R.R. Tolkien, who is the legendary author of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and he has created one of the most immersive, one of the most well-known fantasy worlds in pop culture and in history. So they decided to make a biopic about him, about his life, and it follows him from a young age. It follows him as he gets heavily involved in school. He shows great intellect and intelligence, and it just kind of goes on through his experiences in the war and how all of those helped him create his novel. So Tolkien is a movie I honestly was not expecting to see. They decided last second to do a wide release of this movie, so it was cool that they did a wide release. It was just kind of unexpected. I was not thinking that I would be able to see this movie anytime soon, but I was glad I got to, because The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings are easily my favorite film trilogies. Maybe I like the original Star Wars trilogy a bit more than The Hobbit, but The Lord of the Rings is the best film trilogy of all time. I will fight that with anybody any day. That trilogy is incredible from start to finish. Even the extended editions, as long as they are, you never feel the length because you're so immersed in the worlds. So I was excited for Tolkien just based off of that premise, but I gotta say, I was kind of disappointed. There's one thing I heard Aaron Sorkin once say, who is a screenwriter, and I think it very much applies to this movie. And what he said was that just because there is an interesting person or an interesting event, that does not mean that that would make an interesting story. And his example was Harry Houdini, that he's an interesting guy, he's got an interesting story, but it just cannot be a screenplay and it cannot make up a movie. And unfortunately, that's kind of the same with J.R.R. Tolkien. His story is very basic. It is very uninspiring, not necessarily because it's like, it kind of teaches you bad things or anything like that. It's uninspiring in the way that there's nothing about his life that's exceptional, and there's nothing that you can relate to yourself, or at least that's the way that the movie presented it. And that was a bit of a problem, because if you want to have a movie where you're invested in the main character and you can relate to him and feel for him, you need to give him more of a personality. And this movie did struggle with giving him a personality, but part of that reason is that his story isn't very interesting. He went to school, he went to war, he fell in love. It's all very basic level screenwriting things and basic level storylines that don't lend very well to a movie, and it honestly came out kind of bland. However, I will say I did very much enjoy the friendship aspect of this movie, which takes up a majority of the movie. Even though it took me a while to get into it, they do set up this friend group with Tolkien, and that friend group got me through the movie, honestly. They had good chemistry, they were all good actors, and I felt for them a lot. And a big thing with movies is that if you can make the last 10 minutes good, sometimes I'm susceptible to just saying the movie was good. And this might be one of those movies, because the last 10 minutes were really good. They were emotional, they were heartfelt, even though the rest of the movie was sometimes very long and very drawn out. So in the end, Tolkien, it's a bit difficult of a movie to make because it's just not an interesting story, but for what they were given and what they had strong actors, they had a decent screenplay, and they had a friend group that was very well established and very easy to feel for, despite the fact that the rest of the movie was kind of long and honestly kind of boring. I will give Tolkien a 5.75 out of 10. Alright, that concludes my review for Tolkien. So, what are your thoughts on this film, or what do you think of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogy? Comment in the comment section below and let me know. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.